InWin, as a manufacturer of cases, has an occasional weird case on their books. I believe this is one of them. This is Prism. It's a mid-size case which has a lot of mirrored panels, a lot of glass, a bit of mesh at the same time. I'm actually rather excited to build in this one because it's different. It's just different from most cases. Let's open up and have a look what will go inside. And here's the case. It looks like a normal one, but if you look on the side, it has a bit of a caboose towards the bottom of it. And also, the kind of unique feature about this is featuring a lot of two-way mirrors. So you can turn it around a little bit, and you can see me in the reflection. And obviously, this is going to get better and more interesting when you have lights on and no extra plastic on top. But that's a big selling point for it. It's a mid-size case, but with a lot of angles. And what they're trying to achieve here is have a 180-degree view of all your components inside. Let's open up, go through, and see what we actually get for it. Look at that. That panel, it comes up with the front. That's nice. And that is a heavy, heavy panel. It also has a pretty heavy-duty handle on the back of it for the same reason. It's heavy. Back side of it, kind of the same. We've got filters, and this one is a magnetic filter. So you have your mesh intake with an internal, more fine mesh filter, which is with a magnet. I like that, and the fact that we're using magnets with a bit of that's a nice attention to detail. They've done a little separation for the magnets, and because they've given it a little bit of a kind of cut into it, it fits in nicely. You can actually see, you can kind of align it with the line, and it fits in very, very smoothly. Then we have the front as well, and that is also fine mesh. And then lastly, we have a filter at the bottom, just a typical filter. And now the case does not feel anywhere near as heavy. Actually, talking about the filters, we have one more magnetic filter at the top. Now let's have a look inside. What we have is 4 pre-installed typical Vortex ARGB fans, and at the back they actually feature an ARGB hub, which is a nice little touch. This case can support up to 10 fans. So we already see 4 in the right positions. You can also install up to 3 more at the top. You can actually install 3 120s or 2 140s. You can install 3 120s at the front here as well. So that'll be, if you added 3 more on each side, you'd already have 10. So it's a lot of fans. If you didn't want to install 3 120mm fans at the front, you can actually install 3 140s as well. As far as radiators are concerned, both front and top can support 280 or 360. You can also do 360 on the side. You can do standard ATX, but technically speaking, you could overhang an eATX motherboard if you really wanted to, but you probably shouldn't because these cable holes might be a bit interfered. On the back, you have our hard drive caddies, and you can install 2.5-inch SSDs, or in the same positions, you can actually install 2 3.5-inch hard drives if you really want to go that way. For the ARGB controller, you only have 2 more ports. So you would have to daisy chain some of them or install some of the fans into your motherboard. Alternatively, you can get another hub, but to be honest, I might as well use the hub and just use up all your ports on your motherboard. You should have enough. This is not a cheap case, so you can probably afford a motherboard with extra fan slots, so that's not a problem. These fans spin up to 1600 RPM, so we'll test them out in a bit when we'll start benchmarking. Right, on the back, we can actually see that this can be removed and flipped sideways to install horizontal or vertical graphics cards. For that, you will need to buy a separate bracket, but you could install that if you really wanted to. I do like that the cutouts for the cables for the graphics cards are at the front here, so you can actually kind of route the power supply cable, straight to the graphics card. So that's a really nice touch. I do kind of find this interesting that it's in acrylic, but I think the idea of this case is to load it up with a lot of light and RGB and have it shine through that mirrored finish. I think that's going to be a very interesting approach to this. InWin does say that they don't recommend installing a radiator at the front and on the side at the same time because it's going to kind of interfere, and to be honest, I probably agree. If you wanted to go with the radiator, either use the top slot and put some fans in the front, or maybe use the front and then just use fans at the top for exhaust. This case does come with a pre-installed handle for kind of carrying it around. Since it's a looker, not just a kind of a sleeper, I understand why somebody might want to bring this to like a LAN party or a game show. So I can see why you'd install that. So that's probably going to be useful. Let me set up the build and really see how it delivers. So once we actually built inside the Prism, a few things became clear pretty quickly. The case looks premium, but the way it comes from the factory is not really ideal for airflow or cable organization. More on that a little later on. The first thing we ran into was the front structure. With the panels attached, the frame has a slight twist because of the angled design. You really want to take everything off before installing the motherboard. Once stripped down, the frame feels surprisingly rigid and very light, almost unrealistically light for its size. Inside, there is a captive middle standoff for the motherboard, which helped line everything up. The PSU install was a little trickier though. There is a lip inside the compartment that you need to push past, and it becomes tight pretty fast, especially if you have a larger up to 238mm power supply. The best way is to pre-route all the cables and then slip the unit in. The good news is the GPU cable cutout in the shroud is placed in a very clean spot, so routing the GPU leads was actually very neat. Top clearance is excellent, and working with the coolers or fans up there is easy. Around the case, all the cutouts are folded so there are no sharp edges. Just be careful not to lift the entire case by one of the plexus sections. They are more decorative than structural. The backside is where the story completely changes. The cables from the pre-installed fans come daisy-chained with a separate fan and ARGB leads. Only one bundle was pre-managed. After removing a single large cable tie, the rest basically exploded outwards. It has been a long time since I've opened a case where the factory cable work was so raw. The space itself is fine and the tie down points are plenty, but it's obvious that the user is expected to finish the job. InWin representatives have confirmed that this setup is standard because the hub only controls ARGB lighting. All speed control is done through the motherboard or through your own controller. So Prism is advertised as supporting up to 10 fans, but realistically you may need to consider extra hardware to run that cleanly unless you're happy to keep daisy chaining everything. At least InWin provided plenty of velcros in the bag, so it's always useful. During the build itself we noticed a few quirks. The screw pack comes mixed together. This is something that InWin has done for years. It reduces packaging waste, but it does mean that you have to sort everything manually. The front panel I/O uses the older individual pin headers instead of the combined block, although the placement on our motherboard did make the process easier. The stock layout ships with the entire side bank as exhaust. This chokes intake immediately. Moving them to the front improved the airflow, but once we did that, the top LED strip dropped to a single functioning LED. It still responded to color changes, so the signal was making it through, but the strip itself was no longer lighting up fully. InWin told us that they have not seen this issue before, so we may have been the unlucky ones, but it happened only after the fan relocation, so I must have tugged on the cable somewhere too hard. Mounting the fans to the front did introduce another issue. The acrylic front panel vibrates at higher RPMs. It turns it into a low hum that is hard to ignore. I think if you had a radiator there for stability, it would be better, but with just fans it's not ideal. Once everything was set up and powered on, the Prism does look genuinely unique. The lighting has a striking effect with the mirrored surfaces and the large viewing angles. It's one of those cases where visual payoff is real if you enjoy expressive builds. Unfortunately, we can't show it off properly without that extra LED strip. It plays a big part in highlighting the internal components. Thermally, the results tell a story. At 100% fan speed, in its stock configuration, the case sits close to the bottom of the chart with higher CPU and GPU temperatures. After switching to the front intake, it improves significantly, but it still lags behind most airflow-focused cases. When we noise normalize it, the performance is kinda similar. It still lags behind those cases that are specific for airflow focus. This is certainly not a performance-first case. Structurally, it is a capable case, but the stock fan direction holds it back. Prism leaves a strong overall impression, especially if you value design and want a case that stands out on your desk. The areas that need improvement mostly come down to setup.
The default airflow isn't the most effective, the hub focuses on lighting rather than full fan control, and the acrylic front can pick up vibrations at higher speeds. We'll also run into minor LED strip issue after moving the fans, which may not affect every unit. If you enjoy shaping the final airflow and layout yourself, you'll get more out of it than someone expecting a fully optimized setup straight away. I could even see it working better if the fans came unmounted. Let us know what you think. Thanks for watching. If you think this PC case might be what you need, check out the link below for more details. As always, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more. We'll see you in the next one.